All right, today we are diving deep into the book of Second Kings. And let me tell you, this is one intense story. It's all about a kingdom spiraling downwards, and it's packed with powerful prophets, really corrupt kings, and this huge ultimate battle for the very soul of a nation.
This quote from our source commentary, it just nails it. It says, "The people were hungry spiritually, and they swallowed Baalism. It looked harmless, but it was fatal." Think about that. Israel was basically in a spiritual famine. And when people are starving, they'll eat just about anything. And that's exactly what happened. This rival faith stepped into the void, and while it looked good on the surface, well, it was going to cost them everything.
So let's get this straight. The number one problem facing the kingdom, the commentary tells us, wasn't about their army or their economy. Nope. It was a crisis of faith, plain and simple. They'd turned their backs on their God, and that left this giant empty space, this spiritual vacuum. And what rushed in to fill that vacuum? Baalism. So who or what was Baal? He was the Canaanite god of fertility, rain, agriculture, basically all the things you'd care about if you were a farmer. So you can see the appeal, right? It's like a promise of prosperity. But, and this is a huge but, worshiping him was a direct violation of their covenant with Yahweh. The commentary basically paints it as this slow-acting poison, rotting the kingdom from the inside.
So with all this going on, God doesn't just sit back and watch. No way. He sends in the heavy hitters, the prophets. And these guys, they are not your average preachers. Think of them as God's direct agents on earth, conduits of actual divine power. Their job? To go toe-to-toe with the kings and confront this false religion of Baal head-on. And the two main prophets of this era, Elijah and Elisha, are just fascinating. They're like night and day. First, you've got Elijah. He's this fiery, in-your-face kind of guy. His mission is all about confronting evil. Then you get his successor, Elisha, who's more about grace, miracles, and helping people. So you have one bringing judgment, the other bringing blessing. It's like they're two sides of the same divine coin, which is pretty cool.
And let's be super clear about something the commentary points out. You did not mess with these prophets. Their authority was absolute. Why? Because it came directly from God. So if you disrespected them, you were disrespecting God himself. And the consequences for that? Well, they were swift and they were severe. So about those consequences, take the number 102. That's how many soldiers learn this lesson the hard way. The story goes, this arrogant King Ahaziah sends troops to arrest Elijah. A captain and his 50 men show up and demand he surrender. What does Elijah do? He calls down fire from heaven. Poof, they're gone. The king, not getting the message, sends another captain with 50 men. Same demand, same fiery result. That's 102 men just incinerated for challenging a prophet of God. Okay, and then there's this incident with the number 42. It is intense. Right after Elijah takes over for Elijah, some kids from the town of Bethel start mocking him, yelling, "Go on up, Baldy." Now, this wasn't just them making fun of his hairline. No, they were mocking the fact that his master, Elijah, had just been taken up to heaven. It was a deep spiritual insult. Elijah's response? He curses them, and 2 bears come out of the woods and maul 42 of them. It's a brutal, shocking story, but the message was unmistakable. God's authority will be respected.
But here's where the story takes a really interesting turn. With all this fire and judgment happening inside Israel, our commentary points to this incredible story of faith, but it's found in the most unlikely place you can imagine, with an outsider, an enemy.
So let me introduce you to Naaman. This guy is a big deal. He's the commander of the Syrian army, Israel's enemy. He's a war hero, respected, powerful, but he has a secret. Underneath all that armor, he's got leprosy, which at the time was basically a death sentence. And where does his only sliver of hope come from? A young Israelite slave girl his army had captured. Talk about irony.
And Naaman's journey is just incredible. He shows up in Israel expecting the royal treatment. He's got horses, chariots, a ton of money. He thinks Elisha is going to come out and do some big fancy magic trick. Instead, Elisha doesn't even bother to come outside. He just sends a messenger who says, "Go dip yourself in the Jordan River 7 times. Naaman is absolutely furious. He's insulted. But his servants, thankfully, are a bit more level-headed. They're like, "Look, if he'd asked you to do something huge and heroic, you done it. Why not this simple thing?" So humbled, he does it. He dips in the river and bam, he's completely healed.
And he doesn't just go home cured. He comes back a changed man, a convert who says, "Now I know there is no God in all the world except in Israel."
So why all these specific miracles? The commentary gives us this really key insight. These weren't just random acts of kindness or power. They're what you call polemics, which is just a fancy word for a targeted argument. Basically, every single miracle was like a direct shot fired at Baal, designed to prove that Yahweh was superior.
This is like the divine scorecard, right? The Yahweh versus Baal showdown. So Baal claims to control fertility and food. Boom! Elisha purifies a poisonous stew to show who really provides. Baal claims power over water. Pow! Elisha heals a poisoned spring. Baal's followers think he controls life and death. Wham! Elisha raises a boy from the dead. Every miracle is a knockout punch, proving a point. And this showdown, it doesn't stay in the realm of miracles. Eventually, it explodes into full-on military action. The judgment that's been building against the royal family, the house of Ahab, and, of course, the infamous Queen Jezebel, is about to hit its violent, bloody climax. So you might think the next king would come from some political deal-making, right? Nope. A prophet is sent to an army commander named Jehu and anoints him king with a very specific and very brutal mission. His job isn't to govern, it's to purge. He is meant to be God's weapon of vengeance, to completely and totally wipe out the entire family of Ahab.
And the speed at which this happens is just staggering. Look at this. Day 1, he gets anointed. That same day, he kills the king of Israel, he kills the king of Judah, and he has Queen Jezebel thrown out of a window. Day 2, he has all 70 of Ahab's sons executed. And then, for the grand finale, he tricks all the Baal worshippers into one place and has them all slaughtered. This wasn't a reform, it was a swift, ruthless, total annihilation.
And that brings us to Jezebel's gruesome end. This fulfills a prophecy Elijah made years before. So after Jehu has her thrown from the window and his chariot runs her over, he goes inside to eat. Later he's like, okay, go bury her, she was a king's daughter. But when his men go out, there's almost nothing left. Just like Elijah said, the dogs had eaten her body right there on the land she'd stolen for her husband. A definitive and absolutely terrible end. So you'd think that's it, right? The foreign god is gone, the evil royal family is wiped out, mission accomplished, total victory. But this is where the commentary hits us with the tragic twist. The revolution, it was only skin deep. See, Jehu's reform was in a way effective, but it was incomplete. He got rid of the foreign god, Baal, the one Jezebel brought in. But what about Israel's homegrown idolatry, the golden calves they'd been worshiping for ages? He left those completely untouched. And the commentary suggests why. It was a political move to keep his kingdom separate and secure his own power. It wasn't about true faith. He basically just swapped one idol for another. And that's the final sobering conclusion. Yeah, the purge changed the names and faces. A new king, a different idol. But it didn't change the heart of the nation. They got rid of the worst symptom, but they never cured the actual disease. They were right back where they started, a nation still not fully committed to their God. And that just leaves you wondering, doesn't it? After everything they saw, fire from heaven, people being raised from the dead, a whole revolution in God's name, why did the cycle just keep going? Why couldn't they break free? It really makes you think about what it is, maybe in all of us, that keeps pulling us back to things we know are no good for us. And finally, the whole book of 2 Kings really boils down to this one epic question. Who holds the real power? Is it the king sitting on the throne with all his armies and political power, or is it the prophet who just has the word of God? That tension, that constant clash, that's what makes this ancient story feel so relevant, and it's a question that's definitely worth thinking about.